The cameras were off. No one said a word. On set, all that could be heard was the sound of suppressed sobs and the heavy breathing of the actors who could barely stand. Jonathan Roumie was still hanging on the cross. There was no script for it. There was no more acting. What happened there was something not even the series production team expected. And even with decades of experience, director Dallas Jenkins had to stop everything. He couldn't continue. But what exactly happened behind the scenes of the crucifixion in the 6th season of The Chosen? Stay with me until the end and find out. Before continuing, leave your opinion of the series in the comments. Are you enjoying the series? The crucifixion footage. Since The Chosen premiered, many people have realized that this is not just another ordinary biblical series. It has done something that other productions about Jesus Christ have rarely managed to achieve with such ease. Show the full humanity of the one who divided human history. The Chosen doesn't present Jesus merely as a distant prophet or an unattainable religious figure. Quite the opposite. It portrays Christ as a real man with real feelings who experiences true friendships, moments of joy, exhaustion, and genuine pain. And it is precisely this, more human and intimate perspective that has brought millions of viewers back to the heart of the Christian message. It is no coincidence that the series has won fans worldwide, breaking down cultural and religious barriers. By watching each episode, we are not just following a well-produced plot. We are being invited to live a transformative experience. The 6th season, especially, will be a watershed moment for the series. The entire script focuses on the last 24 hours of Jesus' earthly life, culminating in the crucifixion. And while we've seen this scene depicted in other films or series, this time there's something profoundly different happening. Director Dallas Jenkins decided not to compromise or tone down the emotional intensity of this historic moment. On the contrary, he wanted to portray these final moments with as much realism and intensity as possible. For 3 weeks in June 2025, the crew temporarily abandoned the sets in Midlothian, Texas, and embarked on a sacred destination, both for cinema and for faith, Matera. Yes, the same city that Mel Gibson immortalized in The Passion of the Christ. That city with ancient stones, alleys carved by time, and a natural light that seems to already carry something more. The production of The Chosen knew the weight of this decision. It wasn't just aesthetic, it was coherence. It was commitment to a narrative that needed to exude truth. Dallas Jenkins, the series' creator and director, was straightforward, physically and logistically challenging. And you can imagine, transporting an entire crew, equipment, costumes, schedules, all under the pressure of delivering one of the series' most anticipated scenes, the crucifixion. But the reason was worth the effort. According to Jenkins, Matera offers a landscape that already looks like it came straight out of the 1st century. Therefore, filming the crucifixion in the exact same location used by Mel Gibson was not only a tribute, but also to convey Christ's message in the most authentic way possible. The unexpected happens during filming. The day continues to advance in Matera. The cold is now stronger, biting, but no one seems to notice or care. Everyone's attention is fixed on something much bigger, more intense than any physical discomfort. Jonathan Roumie remains there, suspended on the cross, his exhausted body trembling slightly, his eyes closed in deep concentration. The scene has already been filmed, but something extraordinary has happened. No one can return to normal. No one can simply turn off their emotions and return to work as if nothing had happened. Elizabeth Tabish, the series' Mary Magdalene, is visibly shaken. She quickly leaves the set, almost running, hands on her face to hide the tears that won't stop flowing. Other actors are also deeply moved, hugging each other silently, in a silent attempt to support each other. There is no room for words here. In this particular moment, all communication is through gestures, looks, and silent tears. Dallas Jenkins watches from afar, visibly moved. He knew from the beginning that the sixth season would be challenging, not only technically but spiritually. But even he couldn't have imagined that the recording of the crucifixion would take on this almost supernatural dimension. No special effects were needed, no dramatic soundtrack was included. The intensity of that moment surpassed all limits of what could be scripted. The director would later confess that he had never witnessed anything so impactful and true in his entire career. Jonathan Roumie is perhaps the best person to explain this phenomenon. For him, playing Christ was, in itself, an experience of enormous responsibility. But recreating the final moments of Jesus' life, especially the crucifixion, carried an infinitely greater emotional burden. Roumie said he had to literally empty himself emotionally, casting aside any trace of ego or pride to experience something so sacred. He wasn't simply acting. In those moments, he felt he truly shared some of that unimaginable pain. It was this total surrender that deeply moved his colleagues. George Harrison Santos, who played the Apostle John, described the atmosphere of that recording as electrifying and deeply introspective. He commented that no one was there just to record scenes. Everyone was experiencing a rare moment of collective introspection, of connection with something greater and deeper than anyone could have anticipated. To understand the emotional impact of that scene, it's necessary to consider that, over the past few seasons, the actors have built a real and intense relationship with their characters. More than just an artistic endeavor, playing those people who were so close to Jesus became an intense spiritual and emotional journey. Each actor had to delve deeply into the motivations, fears, hopes, and doubts of these men and women from the past. They began to feel the weight and responsibility of representing with emotional truth the legacy of those who were actually there. One of the most striking aspects of that moment was precisely the vulnerability that permeated the set. These were no longer just actors playing biblical characters. They were ordinary human beings, directly confronted with the emotional and spiritual weight of that historic scene. It was as if that ancient story had taken on a life of its own and deeply touched the soul of every person present. Dallas Jenkins repeatedly asked fans to pray for the crew and cast, highlighting not only the physical challenge of the grueling night shoots, but especially the mental and spiritual warfare involved in producing the most important season to date. Jenkins revealed that they sometimes filmed until 3 a.m., facing extreme fatigue and emotional tension. This, of course, helped create the necessary atmosphere for the intensity of the crucifixion scene. But nothing had prepared anyone for what would actually happen during filming. The intensity of the situation led Jenkins to stop filming several times so everyone could simply breathe and process what they were experiencing. This break was unplanned, but it became necessary given the emotional avalanche that overwhelmed the crew. This atmosphere of emotional intensity wasn't limited to the lead actors. Technicians, extras, and the entire crew were equally moved. Later, crew members reported feeling something inexplicable, a kind of emotional weight mixed with a sense of awe and gratitude for being part of that unique moment. More than a few wept silently behind the camera, discreetly captured in behind-the-scenes footage later released by the production team. What makes this experience even more impressive is precisely how spontaneous it was. No rehearsal could have prepared the cast for that genuine outburst of emotion. And it is precisely this authenticity that connects the series so deeply with its audience. The Chosen has achieved something rare. It has managed to relive an ancient and widely known story with surprising intensity. When the cross ceases to be a scene and becomes a mirror. More than ever, telling the story of Jesus Christ has become urgent in our times. The intensity of what happened on the set of The Chosen during the filming of the Crucifixion is not just an isolated event, an emotional or technical coincidence. This specific moment revealed something essential that humanity desperately needs to rediscover: a true connection with the sacred, a true reconciliation with life's deepest and most essential values. We live in a world that, despite being technologically connected, is profoundly disconnected spiritually and emotionally. Anxiety, depression, and a sense of existential emptiness seem to have become the norm. People, regardless of their beliefs or backgrounds, feel a sense of longing for something greater, something that gives meaning to existence. It is at this crucial point that the story of Jesus, especially as told in The Chosen, becomes so powerful. Jonathan Roumie, by portraying this intimate Jesus, gave voice not only to the historical or religious figure, but also to the universal feeling of human vulnerability. All of us, at some point, have faced loneliness, suffering, or existential doubts. Therefore, when we see this real human Jesus facing similar challenges, we feel deeply identified.
This identification has the transformative power of bringing us back to the sacred, to the spiritual essence that seems to have been lost amid the hustle and bustle of modern life. On the other hand, there is also the profound aspect of Jesus' sacrifice, painfully evidenced in the scenes of the crucifixion recorded in the material. Sacrifice is something our current culture avoids at all costs, as if it were synonymous with weakness or defeat. However, the sacrifice depicted there was not a passive or defeatist act, but rather the ultimate expression of love and courage. Jesus faced pain, humiliation, and death not out of resignation but out of profound love for humanity. This brings us face to face with a truth that perhaps many of us have forgotten. Truly loving involves risk, vulnerability, and often sacrifice. There is no true love without genuine surrender, and in an age marked by superficial relationships and the immediacy of fleeting gratifications, this message takes on especially significant weight. The actors who lived that scene clearly perceived this profound meaning. The real pain they experienced there was not just a representation of ancient suffering, but the true manifestation of something the world desperately needs today: authenticity, empathy, genuine compassion, and true spiritual connection. In times where everything seems fast, disposable, and superficial, it's urgent to rediscover the value of what truly matters. That's why telling this story has never been more important. The modern world, so saturated with information and distractions, needs to hear messages that truly matter again. Messages that speak directly to the human heart, without filters, without artificiality, without superficiality. Perhaps the greatest strength of The Chosen lies precisely in its commitment to emotional truth. By creating a space for real vulnerability, whether from the actors or the audience, it allows each viewer to find something deeply personal and spiritual in each scene. This kind of experience is transformative, especially because it doesn't attempt to impose a single or closed-minded view of faith, but rather opens space for genuine and personal reflection. People are becoming increasingly ill. They desperately seek answers or solace for their anxiety, and telling Jesus' story again becomes not only relevant, but vital for us. This story doesn't offer easy solutions or ready-made recipes. It offers something far more valuable: a path to rediscovering meaning, purpose, and hope. Surrendering to Jesus isn't an act of weakness or escape from reality, but rather of courage and wisdom. It's recognizing our own limitations, our essential human need for something greater than ourselves. When we allow Christ to be part of our daily lives, our relationships, and our decisions, we allow our lives to be filled with true meaning, hope, and peace. Jesus has already done his part here on earth. Now let's do ours. The world needs people willing to truly love, to reach out, to look into each other's eyes with empathy and sincere passion. Christ taught us precisely this with his own life, his example, and, above all, his supreme sacrifice. When we rediscover this message authentically, whether in church, in the Bible, or in the series The Chosen, we clearly realize that the only real solution to our difficult times lies precisely in this sincere and total surrender. The invitation is simple, yet profoundly powerful. Allow yourself to experience this closeness and complete trust in Christ today. It's not just religion, it's a relationship. It's not just history, it's real transformation. May this message touch you deeply, and may we together experience better times, closer to what truly matters. If this content was valuable to you, I strongly recommend watching this video currently on your screen. In it, I reveal the other side of Christ's death that movies and soap operas don't show. See you in the next video. Thank you.